Just going through the weekly time cards, students, trying to see how much all the employees worked. The business math. Let's see. Yes, I created a children's play park called Business Math, where all the tiny little 5- and 6-year-olds can play with business calculators and pretend money, and I have employees who work there. I'm looking at their time cards. But this is kind of an antiquated view of time cards. Are they actually on paper anymore? The answer to that question is typically no. We used to actually have these little sheets of paper, and then you'd put them into a machine that would stamp the time so that the employer would know when you got into work, so that they could pay you properly. Then when you went on lunch, you'd put it in again, and you put it into this little machine, and it would go, and it would put the time out, right? The exact time of day when you left to go to lunch. When you're done with lunch, you'd put the paper back in. It would put the time that you came back to work, and then when you left for the day, you'd put the time card back in. And it would put the exact time out, so that when you gave the time cards to your employers, they would be able to say, oh, okay, well, you worked 8.5 hours today, so I multiply that by your hourly rate, and then I can put that on your paycheck. Now, that's how things used to go. But typically, that's not the case anymore. There are computer programs that can do this much more efficiently. And besides, if you lost your paper time card, how sad would you be? You'd be like, oh, I just lost it's like the equivalent of losing $50 or $60. But if it's based on an app, on a tablet, or on a computer at work, and you just type in when you clock in and clock out, then they can have an accurate representation. So I want to take you down here to the board so that you can see a digital version of a time card. What would it look like? Well, on the 17th of April, you clocked in. And another way to say that is your time in to work was 0817. You might be saying to yourself, well, is this like a late night job? Is this 8:17 in the morning or in the afternoon? Well, typically with time cards, you're going to use military time. So anything after 12 noon actually goes up to 13, and then to 14 to symbolize 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. So you're going to see some pretty wild numbers here, but I'll walk you through it. So this is 8:17 in the morning because it's below 12. Right? Then you clock out at 11:32. Your time out is 11:32 a.m. Your time back in after lunch is 12:17 p.m. And then your time out is 17:17. Oh, what does that even mean? Well, the easiest way to determine military time is to just subtract 12 if you're used to AM and PM. So if I subtract 12 from 17, I'll get 5. So this is like 5:17 p.m. And truth be told, I love military time because I don't ever need to say AM or PM. It saves so many syllables coming out of my mouth. You got to protect your voice. You can't talk too much. So using military time really helps with brevity. I recommend. So this is 17:17 or 5:17 p.m. How many hours did this person work? Well, to understand what this is, let's actually analyze it. All right. So you work from 8:17. Let's count the hours from 8:17 to 9:17. That's 1 hour. 10:17. 11:17. So we're at 3 hours. Now we can count the minutes. 3 hours. And how many minutes? Well, from 17 to 32. That's going to be 15 minutes. And you can do the standard algorithm here if you want to. 32 minus 17, borrow 1. 12 minus 7 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 15. All right, so you can do that using mental math skills, or you can use the standard algorithm. So this is 3 hours and 15 minutes for your morning shift. And you go and grab a bite to eat. Eat fast, must get back to work. All right, and then you're like, okay, I'm done eating, and I'm going to clock back in or have my time in, clicking on the computer or on the app. Or if you actually still have a paper time card, please write me. I would love to know where you're working because that's super cool. Like there's something about using like an actual piece of paper to do time cards that just really fills my spirit with joy. So let me know if that's the case. But typically it's digital. You clock back in at 12:17, and then you leave at 17:17, which again we said was 5:17 p.m. You just subtract 12 from military time to find out what time it is in p.m. So from 12:17 to 17:17, the minutes are the same, so really we just have hours, and the hours increased by 5. So this is 5 hours. All right, and I'm leaving off the OU in hours because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just, I love brevity, you know, making life a little bit easier by not having to write the OU just really saves us so much time, right? 18th of April, your time in is 08:31 to 12:01. All right, so let's figure out how much time we worked in that morning shift. So 8 to 9:31, 10:31, 11:31. Right, so there's 3 hours. And then you went an additional 30 minutes to get you to right around noon. You eat your lunch. Lunch. Now it's time to clock back in because I need to make money. I need to work. I need to help my employer build the best products they possibly can. So you clock back in, and you go from 12:46 to 16:46. Oh, man. Has anyone ever said, like, I'll meet you somewhere at 16 o'clock? It's like really strange. But after you start using military time a little bit, you're gonna love it. You're also gonna be really good at subtracting or adding 12. You're gonna become like an expert at that. So the minutes are the same, but 12 to 16 is 4. All right, so you worked an additional 4 hours in the afternoon. All right, and then we didn't work any more that week. So unfortunately, we're not eligible for that sweet, sweet overtime pay. However, we did work quite a bit. Let's add up all the hours of our weekly timesheet, see what we get here. 3 and 5 make 8. Another 3 make 11, and another 4 make 15. All right, so in this week, we worked 15 hours. And 15 minutes, 30 minutes, all right, that's 45 minutes. Superb. All right, so we got 15 hours, 45 minutes worked that week. And this is a reasonable timesheet, especially if you're a student. When I worked at a fast food restaurant when I was going to high school, I would typically average about this amount of hours per week. I'd work a lot on the weekends and maybe just a few hours at night because I was trying to study. But let's imagine that this is a student, and this student has 15 hours and 45 minutes work. That's great. How much money does that translate to? Well, let's imagine that this person has a relatively high-paying hourly job of $12 an hour. $12 per hour. That's pretty good pay if you can get it. And you're thinking to yourself, all right, $12 an hour. So how am I going to do this? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to say 15 hours times $12 an hour. Something magic happens here. 15 hours multiplied by $12 per hour. Right. You see that the hours are on opposite sides of the division bar. So what that means is that after you multiply these together, you'll have hours divided by hours, and anything divided by itself is 1. So when we divide these, they end up converting into 1 and save us a whole bunch of time because now we don't need to think about these units. We're just left with the dollars that we want. Like, how much money did we make? 15 times 12. All right, so what I'm going to do is teach you a really cool mental math trick here. 15 times 12 is 180. And I just did that, let me snap my fingers here, like that. But it's not because like I'm a genius or anything. It's because I have some mental math. And I say trick, it's actually like a mental math skill. All right, I'm going to stop saying tricks because this isn't a magic show. This is for you to learn some hardcore business math. So let's learn. How did I do that so quickly? Well, it's not a trick. It's a skill that I learned, and I'm going to teach you right here. 15 times 12 is hard. I'm not going to do that in my head. I refuse to do it, in fact. But 15 times 10 is easy, so I will do that. 15 times 10, I don't even need to write that down. I just put a 0 on the end. 15 times 10 is 150. You say to yourself, wait. But it's not 15 times 10, it's 15 times 12. And don't cry, all right? It's going to be okay. 15 times 10, you've done most of the groups already. You've done 15 times 10 of the groups. There's only 2 more groups left. All right? So 15 times 10 is 150. 15 times 2 more groups that you hadn't done yet is 30. Right? 15 times 2 is 30. Now I'll just add. 150 and 30 make 180. All right, so that is a pretty cool mental math skill. Breaking apart double-digit multiplication problems to do an easy part and an easy part, and then adding them together will allow you to be a mental math wizard, right? So 180, 15 times 12 is 180. But you might be saying to yourself, Mr. Rogers, we're forgetting something. I need to get paid for these 45 minutes. So, Mr. Rogers, I need to do 15 times 12. But we already did that, right? That was the 15 hours times the $12 an hour. But the 45 minutes, So let me do 45 times 12. 45 minutes times $12 an hour. Oh. Do you see what happened there? We mixed the units. We're getting paid $12 an hour, not $12 a minute. So when you have your weekly time card, you need to convert your minutes to hours in order to get paid out correctly. So we think to ourselves, okay, so let me erase this part. We've done the 15 hours part. We know for a fact that we're going to receive $180 for this piece. But how much are we going to receive for this piece? And therein lies the challenge. 45 minutes. What is that in terms of an hour? It's not quite an hour. It's not quite 1 hour. It's actually going to be less than 1 hour. So whenever we learn what the answer is, we can gut check our answer by saying, well, is the answer more than 1? Or is it less than 1? So here's, let's do this challenge here. We know that 45 minutes is how much we worked. And we know that there's 60 minutes in an hour. So 45 minutes divided by 60 total minutes in an hour. So this is part of an hour that we worked divided by the whole hour. This should give us the fraction, or the decimal if you prefer, of what we need. So 45 minutes divided by 60 minutes. Let's just turn that into 45 divided by 60. And we say to ourselves, what goes into both 45 and 60? And there's actually a lot of numbers that could work here. If you can't think of the highest one, just choose one. I mean, it looks like this ends in a 5 and this ends in a 0, so they're probably both divisible by 5. There's a higher one than that, but it's okay. We can start with the one that we know for sure first. All right, 45 divided by 5. That's 9. 60 divided by 5. That's 12. So there's a 9/12 of an hour. I wonder if there's anything else that we can get to go into 9 and 12. And the answer to that is 3. 3 is a common factor for both of those, so we can divide those further by another 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 45 minutes out of 60 minutes is the equivalent of 3/4 of an hour. Okay, so 3/4 of an hour times $12 per hour. How much extra money are we going to get for that? $3/4 of an hour times $12 per hour. How do we do that? So we're thinking about multiplying fractions here. So we can do 3 times 12, which is 36. 4 times 1, so our denominator will be 4. How much is that? 36 divided by 4. That is 9. Boom. So if we work for 3/4 of an hour, and we're making $12 per hour, we'll get 3/4 of that, which we just learned to be $9. Add these two up. You made $180 for your 15 hours, and you made $9 for your 45 minutes. $189 on your paycheck. All right, that can buy a lot of food. That can buy books. Buy, let's see, some data on your phone plan. There's a lot that you can do with $189. And it all started with analyzing our weekly timesheet. Typically, they're in military time, which is okay. If you ever get confused by military time, just subtract 12. You calculate your total time worked in hours and minutes. But remember, minutes are just a piece of an hour. So after you calculate the amount of money you get from hours, you'll have to calculate the minutes separately, and you'll have something that's less than 1 because minutes are just a piece of an hour. Thank you for analyzing this weekly timesheet with me. Have a great day.